Yeah, so we've got, so our STEAM, all right, this is the big part, right? That's the art in STEAM. And so that's like the packaging. It's like the final product. Like Grace is the A in STEAM. She makes everything look good and sell things, all right? And then we know what all of these are, right? So when we do STEAM, we have computer science. That's one of our strands of STEAM. And then we also have design thinking. And design thinking is really everywhere. So we like to try to incorporate design thinking in like all of our classes.
Yeah.
So in language arts, when they're working on, maybe they're making a commercial in language arts, which is like the A part, right? Then they're using design thinking on how to set that up and to design. So we try to have design thinking in all of our classes. All right, we also have an entrepreneur unit. Entrepreneur unit, and that's, you teach kids how to set up a business. And so what we'd like our kids to be able to do is to have the confidence where they can take their own passions, their own things that interest them, and maybe understand how to set up a business, how to design a business.
So like entrepreneur is also a part of like STEAM project.
Yeah, entrepreneur is part of our STEAM units as well. And then we have science and engineering. So in the science and engineering, the kids build things. They make things with their hands. And the little tiny kids, they're cutting things. And so it's a lot of this type of stuff, like our Rube Goldberg stuff.
Yes.
That would be a science and engineering unit. Kids, we're designing like robotic hands, things like that. That's all part of that. And then we have a robotics and technology. So the idea behind robotics and technology is how do we connect the robotic world to our everyday lives?
Yeah.
And so, so with that, you can get Raspberry Pis, Arduinos, and then there's different things like little circuits, and there's different types of tech equipment that you can purchase where the kids can use that to innovate and design things. And then we have media and technology. So media technology is what you are really good at, but it's that whole design world. So it's all the different platforms from Microsoft Word to the Adobe suites to Photoshop to Illustrator, but it's playing around with those tools in order to become technologically literate.
Hi, correct. Like it's like the e-portfolio of student is like a product of the media technology.
All right,
when
so
they use the skill to create their own website and portfolio on the
Right.
internet.
So our kids are making websites, grade 6 through 9, and it'll actually be grade 6 through 12 eventually. But as they create their websites, they put in their websites things that they're proud of, that they've done, not only in STEAM, but things they're proud in all the classes. And so it's a way that they create this portfolio to go with them. That's what you're talking about. And then when it comes time for students to like apply to camps or to go off to college, often if they go to college like in Europe or the UK or the US, they submit a portfolio of all the things that they've done, and sometimes they win grant money
Yes.
that way.
I want to know the difference, the STEM or not STEM.
Oh, it's this.
Yeah. I think art in STEM is needs to solving problem with using it or in life. But I think that STEM and STEM is many different.
Yeah.
STEM or STEM, yeah.
Yeah, so all of this stuff, so the design thinking, we have our science, we have our technology, engineering, and mathematics in that. Robotics and technology, we do have our tech in that. But then we also have, it all depends on what we're doing. So if we're running robots, we can also use different instruments on those robots to collect data. And then that would be the science part that's woven into that as well. So sometimes we have technology standards here, but sometimes we also have science standards that are woven into the science part. And so the science part, here we use the NGSS, and that's kind of a US-based next generation science standards. And then so as we create different types of units, especially the science and engineering units, then we incorporate a lot of the next generation science standards into that. And a lot of that is the science practices. So everything from either asking a question, which would be like we do in science, or trying to find a solution to a problem, which would be more engineering side. And then you have your mathematical thinking in there, you have your scientific thinking involved in that too.
He would like to learn more like how the differences between STEM and STEAM, like how we incorporate the art in like STEAM program.
How we integrate the art.
Yeah.
All right, so the art would be, all right, so like if I was over here in the media and tech, that has a really, really strong art component. And so often when we are designing a final product, we're looking at the artistic feel of that. What does that look like? Would a consumer want to purchase that item that you have? What type of material science have you used for that in order to make it appealing to people? And so often what we'll do is, so if the kids are working through a design thinking, like one of our design thinking problems that we did in the fall was we had students trying to create a better TrueNorth school experience. And so how did they go about doing that? Well, they interviewed people like Grace in marketing, they interviewed principals, they interviewed teachers, they interviewed ninth graders, they interviewed each other, they went to the elementary school, they interviewed them, and then they went through this whole process of interviewing and trying to figure out who they wanted to have as a client. So each student maybe had 7 to 8 different people they interviewed, and then they came back and they designed a product for that person. And so some of those, this is where the art part comes in. So they go through the whole design thinking process from empathy to defining to ideating,
Prototype.
right? Then the prototyping and testing. And all along there, they're going back to that partner. So as they design a certain product, like I had one student that was designing a playground equipment. This was a 6th grader. So that's one of our next stages here is we're going to be creating a playground out here. And so the student interviewed not only kids, not only Danny or BOM, and then they did they used media and tech to design what it would look like, and then they built it. And then they would go back to those people and say, okay, so would you like a slide that was made of plastic or of metal, and so they had different types of, through here they had different types of photos that they could show with their cardboard and wood prototype. Said this could be the cover, and what would you prefer to have? What would you like best? And so going back and forth, then they would make changes to that until there was like this 3rd or 4th time that they interviewed their client. Then they said, oh, okay, I would probably buy this.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Yeah.
that was a kind of a long process. That's just kind of one example, but it's the appearance. So the art part is that final appearance. And I know one of the things that we've done with our art teacher, when we created display boards and items like that, we had the kids go in and they talked to the art teacher, and then they talked about, okay, so when I make a display board, aesthetically pleasing to the eye, symmetrical, what should that look like? And so they created kind of prototypes, and then she was able to say, yes, but think about this part right here. Or this part here looks too busy or too crowded. How can you incorporate the photos into that? And so again, that would be kind of the art side. So it's working with the art teacher, but it's also on that, when the kids build something, it can still be structurally sound. You know, it can be like if they were making a catapult for something, it can still be really strong, but if it doesn't look good, nobody's gonna buy it. And so that's one of the final things that we always do when we go through the design cycle, is take a look at what does the appearance look like in that overall packaging and product.
Design thinking process to work step by step.
Say that
Tức là
again.
muốn là cái vai trò của thiết kế đó cái STEM.
Like he would like to know about the role and like the step by step of a design thinking process.
Oh, I can show you.
Yeah.
Want me just to show you on the computer?
Yeah.
That'd probably be easier than trying to practice stuff out. So what we use here, our design thinking process, we go through Stanford D School. And so you're familiar with the D School?
Yeah. Stanford student.
Yeah, so this has all kinds of resources that we go through. And this is where they're one of the groups that really push this design thinking.
Yeah.
So they have all kinds of training that they offer. And so there's all kinds of actually through here, if you look at their resources, you know, it's just full of different types of things that all related to this whole design thinking process. The rubric we use, I'm not sure where the rubric is right there, but this is basically what they came up with. All right, so that's, and you might be familiar with that too, but that's what we use to build all of our design thinking around. So the empathy part, that's the most difficult part. And you know, so you can design for a product or you can design for a system. So maybe the marketing team isn't working very well together. You can go in and you can figure out, you empathize, okay, what's going wrong with the system, and then through that you can start maybe designing different ways you communicate with each other. I don't know, whatever the problem would be.
Yeah.
It can be with any organization. We had some students at one time, this was at a previous school, but the students said, when we go to lunch, there was like 3 different lines to line up for different types of food, but the lines were always long. And the kids said, sometimes we're waiting 10 minutes in line. So what can we do about it? So we had a couple of our high school kids get some drones. And they flew some drones over the cafeteria. And then they videoed the flow of kids coming into the cafeteria.
I want to know
Yeah.
two different step test or assessment.
Oh yeah. So this is something that they've had. This actually is some.
I think that assessment
That's-
is same test, but
It is.
I want to know different set or assessment.
See, actually, that is not Stanford. So the one I went to is not Stanford. So let me go back. So assessment would be just the final grade. We don't necessarily use this part.
Yeah.
We go through this. This is what Stanford D School is. And a lot of people have taken their process and they've added things to it.
Yeah,
So this looks like it was added by this institute.
It's like they analyze the results
Right.
of the test.
They analyze,
that,
guidelines for evaluating
Yeah.
project, openly giving, receiving feedback, integrating the feedback together.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like an extra thing,
Extra, yeah.
but we're not using that. That might be something that they've just recently added.
Because we already have evaluation in this.
Yeah,
in
this is the test, and then often you come back into here, right?
Yeah, okay.
And sometimes you come back here to
like a
whoever your
circle.
client
Yeah.
is, and then you have to come back and maybe ideate some more or prototype. So the kids always know that this isn't always the final. It isn't, because sometimes you cycle back through. Maybe that wasn't the best
Track
one.
is 5.
Oh yeah, I've got to get going. Maybe that wasn't the best one. This looks like, that's the one we use right there.
Yeah.
So that doesn't have the
That's-
assessment. So they just decided to add assessment to
Yeah.
it. So what's nice about this is you can play around with it, and
Yeah.
and you can kind of create your own. But I think these are anyway, that's what we use here as we're going through the
Yeah.
process. But we like our kids to be able to think that the whole world is a design problem. So
Yeah.
traffic flows around school. How can we make the traffic flow better?
Yeah.
How can we, the stoplights, sometimes there's lots of traffic at the stoplights. What can we do? Do we need to have lights that change?
So, Craig, why is in they learn about K-pop? What is that?
That's Mr. Kwan. I'm not sure what he was doing there. I think it was just kind of going through that whole scientific process. That was like at the beginning of the year.
Okay, so I think
Yeah,
it's fine and you have to leave.
yeah, I've got it. My sister is flying back to the United States tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.
So-
I
Yeah.
will walk him around the school to introduce him our
Okay.
facility.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to
and
meet you. Thank you for the.
Hopefully sometime we can
And we will meet
exchange
all the
ideas,
global-
because you're the
Yeah.
expert.
Yeah.